This episode of the MLB Guardcast is sponsored by Sadnap Studios. Are you in need of assistance when it comes to digital arts, logo creation, website design, brand building, or designing merch? Then look no further than Sadnap Studios. The team at Sadnap Studios wants to help and make your dreams into reality. Everything is original and organically created. Nothing AI. You can follow them and check out some of their incredible work on Instagram at sadnap_studios_art drop. Thanks again to the folks at Sadnap Studios. Go Guards. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the MLB Guardcast is back. It's time for another episode, this time number 40. I am Mike Vorhies. With me, as always, nice hair today. Not doing the ball cap. I like it. It's Bryan Shaw. It must mean Brian's on vacation this week.
I am off all week. Yes, I do not
Congrats.
have to
That's
work.
awesome.
I'm off most of next week too. So
Nice.
yeah.
Enjoy it, my friend. I am off tomorrow and Christmas Day, of course, and then I will work a half a day New Year's Eve, and then I'll be off New Year's Day. So
Yeah,
Merry Christmas
it is
to
holiday
all.
mode. You're right. Merry
It is.
Christmas.
Happy
The Guardians,
Festivus.
happy Festivus. The Guardians gave us a Christmas present and something to talk about.
They
And
did.
we have more trade news, and we said we would be here if there was more trade news, and so here we are. Mike,
I want the smoke. I want the
you
smoke.
you want the smoke. I get it.
He's no longer with us, folks. He didn't die. Josh Naylor traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks on Saturday evening, right before the Buckeyes game. I have a whole theory on why it was announced, when it was
Oh.
announced, and then the Buckeyes game kind of drowned it out, our sorrows, because they whooped Tennessee up and down the field. So the Guardians slid in the news around, I want to say around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, sometime in there, Eastern time, that Josh Naylor had been traded. Brian, you broke the news to me. You sent me the text, and I went, "You've got to be kidding me." I said,
Yeah.
if Naylor's gone, who's playing first? Well, lo and behold, 5 minutes later, another tweet from the Cleveland Guardians went out. He's back. Carlos Santana, a.k.a. Slamtana, the 38-year-old who played with the Minnesota Twins last year, is back with the Guardians. He will platoon at first base with Kyle Manzardo, and he will also probably get time at designated hitter as well. Brian, I know you're chomping at the bit. The floor is yours, sir. Let me hear how you feel about the signing, the trade, all of it.
Yeah. So I don't want to dwell too much on like my personal feelings. Like I feel like a lot of our people kind of more want like, okay, give us an explanation, a breakdown of why you think this happened and what are they
Yep.
thinking. And we do have that for you. But I will say first off, I am kind of surprised. Now I've read things and heard things after the fact, and I guess I'm not as surprised anymore. But I did think that when they traded Jimenez, they weren't going to trade Josh Naylor. Um, I didn't think I didn't think they were going to trade Josh Naylor, and I had said that publicly, especially since there was so much rumor around him. Usually, when there is a lot of rumor around a guy, they don't end up making a move because the Guardians don't leak a lot of stuff. But the first base market was like really, really heating up. We saw Goldschmidt get a deal, and there was
Christian
Alamon.
Walker went to the
Yeah,
Astros.
there was a lot of first base movement, and so you ended up with the trade. We get Slade Cecconi from Arizona, a pitcher, another potential starting pitcher, and then a comp B pick. So compensation picks can be traded. Those are the only ones that can be traded in Major League Baseball. And Chris Antonetti said it'll be between the second and third rounds. So a late second round pick, early third round pick, however you want to
Somebody
interpret that.
somebody to improve the team, right? That's kind of what these
in
draft picks are
in
for.
in the future, yeah, somebody to
Yeah.
improve the team in the future. So then we have the Santana deal on top of that, and I want to say that there was a key difference if you listen to the press conferences after from Chris Antonetti and how he talked about why they made these moves. With Andreas Jimenez, it was about internal depth. So he was like, "We've got guys. We have a strong middle infield, internal depth, all these things." So that's your Juan Britos, maybe Angel Martinez, and eventually the first overall pick from this past year, Travis Bazzana. This time, he didn't talk about internal options. He couldn't announce Santana yet because he hasn't passed his physical.
Correct.
So he kind of dodged that question, but he said, we're going to have an announcement soon. And he said one aspect of trading Josh was being able to replace him. So clearly they felt like Carlos Santana bringing him back for 1 year will be just as good, if not better, than Josh Naylor for 1 year. Because if you read Terry Pluto's article from over the weekend, he says they had no interest in signing him to an extension. So it was either
Yeah,
so it's
that shocked me a bit. That
so
shocked
it's
me a
yeah.
little bit that the Guardians were like, we're going to turn the page.
Well,
And obviously, Twitter blew up. Everybody immediately going at the Dolans, talking about how cheap they are, and this is a stupid move. And you did Jimenez, and now you did Naylor, and then you bring back a 30 plus, almost 40 Carlos Santana. What is this team doing? Our window is now. Blah 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 blah.
yeah, so here's the thing on that though. They basically make the same amount of money.
They
Josh
do.
is getting 14, Carlos got 12. Um, and then you have Cocconi that you've got to pay, and he'll get about 1 million. It's he's pre-arbitration, so it's like 800,000, I believe. So I mean, it's kind of
You
it's,
sent me his earn run average, and I laughed.
yeah,
His career ERA is 6.66,
we'll
folks.
we'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to that in a moment. Um, but I mean, I did feel like before this, like just keep Josh.
Mhm.
Keep Josh for the year. He could
Fan
walk.
favorite,
Then you
loved.
get a
Yeah.
camp. Then you get a comp pick. When
Mhm.
Josh leaves in free agency. However, more in that Terry Pluto article was conversations about Josh's weight and them being able to get value for him and get a trade. Now, there's clearly something about Cocconi that they do like, and we'll get to that in a moment. But um, I was looking at Josh's stats from last season, and in the first half of the year, he had an 816 OPS, and then in the second half of the season, he had a 717 OPS. And there was talk in that Pluto article that it was that Josh was gaining weight throughout the season, and then so I just wonder if they were like, we can't trust him. Now I will admit, like if you say you can't trust Josh because he's put on weight and you're worried he can't stay healthy, replacing him with a 39-year-old and worrying about health may also have a lot of risk with that. Like
But
Carlos Santana is not a young
To
chicken.
Carlos Santana's defense, though, Gold Glove first baseman,
Yes.
excellent defender,
Yes.
mashes left-handed pitching, which
Yes.
we need, and he makes a wonderful platoon partner. Because I'm going to say this, I'm going to speak truth. If I make some people upset and angry, I'm sorry. Where was Josh Naylor in the postseason?
You're right. That was something
Where was
as well.
Andres Jimenez in the postseason? Guys, they disappeared.
Yeah.
Jose couldn't do it all. There wasn't other guys that stepped up, minus John Kenzie Noel with his epic home run, and then David Fry. David Fry literally carried us in the postseason.
And Lane
Naylor and
Thomas.
Jimenez were nowhere. Well, and Lane Thomas, you're right. His grand slam is still by far my favorite postseason event this year. Um, but we needed to make a change, guys. He wasn't going to sign here long term. You hear the Guardians say they weren't going to even offer him anything. Why not get rid of him now? Get somebody here. We bring back a familiar fan favorite in Carlos Santana, who, if you look at their stats,
Are pretty similar.
very similar.
Yeah. There's not a lot of difference overall. And I think that's their thinking. It's not that it's that, okay, well, the second half, Josh trailed off. Is that going to be a trend? Is he going to continue to gain weight? Is that going
Yeah.
to continue to be an issue? You only had him for 1 year. Somebody's offering you a pitcher who you think you can mold
Which
into a good starter
depth helps,
for
folks.
that. And clearly the starting pitcher market is in free agency is insanity.
We knew that. We knew that the moment Alex Cobb got a $15 million deal. We knew that the moment Matthew Boyd only having what, how many starts with us, but and then he gets a 2 year deal with the
Yeah.
Cubs. Walker Bueller gets a $21.5 million contract with Boston.
And then Sean Manaea
Patrick, yeah, Sean Manaea, who we
just
thought could potentially be a Guardian. Nope. Goes
he got
back to the Mets for
a
he
big
got Bobby
money.
Bonilla money. I'm gonna be 62 by the time that they're done paying Sean Manaea.
So he took a lot of deferred money in
My goodness.
2035. In 2035, he will get an annual payout of 2.5 million until 2044.
Did they not learn their lesson with Bobby Bonilla?
Well,
Guys,
I,
come
I,
on.
I mean,
Like, I
whatever.
get you've got to find avenues to make stuff happen, and there's loopholes and things. I'm 42. I will be 62 by the time Sean Manaea is done being paid by the New York Mets. That's fine. But we know that the starting pitching market's blowing up. You had Patrick Sandoval, fresh off of Tommy John surgery,
Yeah.
got a 2 year deal from Boston.
Hmm.
And everybody is overpaying for pitching because it's of need.
Yeah.
We got another pitcher by trade and let Cleveland work their magic and let's see what we can do with this guy.
Yeah, I think there's some, as you said, that when I looked at it, I looked at his starts. He had 13 starts with Arizona last season, and he has a 6.66 ERA, a -1 WAR, 7 losses, a 1.4 WHIP. And if you look at his StatCast, his baseball savant page, a lot of blue on that page, but there was a couple of things that are good. And he's young, only
Mhm.
only played
And
a third of the season.
he hasn't had the pitcher whisperer, aka Carl Willis,
Yes,
whispering in his ear.
but the Guardians like guys with good extension. And he
Mm-hmm.
was in the 64th percentile in Major League Baseball in extension. He also has a low walk rate. And so I think that they looked at that. Now, there's another aspect of this because Mr. Antonetti, during his press conference talking about Cocconi, he didn't talk about his major league stuff a lot. He talked about his minor league and how well he was in the minors. Now, those stats are a little harder to come by, especially advanced statistics. But there is a gentleman on Twitter called TJ Stats, and he tweets out a lot of the savant like pages for AAA. And if you look at Cocconi's AAA statistics, he is 79% or better in basically every single one. So there's something
Okay.
they liked about him. Now, I don't think he's going to start the season with the team probably as a starter. He's either going to start in AAA or he's going to start in the pen, I think, because right now you have Bybee, Gavin, Ortiz, Lively, and Tristan no longer has options. So he's probably going to be at least the fifth starter to start to make sure that you have to give him that chance. So I think that's your
Mhm.
rotation right there to start off the season. Will Cocconi make starts? Yes, we've seen like 8, 9 guys make starts for the Guardians.
There's
If Trick,
names you didn't even mention for our starting rotation. Joey Cantillo,
yes,
Logan
uh,
Allen.
yes, they'll probably start off in AAA as well, or in the bullpen. And I think those guys need a little bit of ramp up time.
Mhm.
They were up and down. They struggled a little bit. They got sent back. Not to say that they're not going to be good pitchers down the line, but the Guardians, and then Bieber eventually is going to come back as well. So you're adding Bieber to
I,
that mix later as well.
what
So they clearly
correct me if I'm
identified an
wrong.
issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Hunter Gaddis was a starting pitcher, correct?
Yes, he was. Yes,
Highly touted
not not
prospect
not
for
not
us
a,
at one
not a great
time.
starting pitcher, but he
No,
was.
but what happened when we put him in the bullpen and made him a setup guy. What remind me again what happened?
He basically became shut down.
Hmm. Hmm.
There was a lot of those
So
guys.
we could be
Eli
doing the
Morgan
same
started
thing
off as a starter.
with this pitcher from Arizona that we just got.
We could be
It's going to take me a while to get his name, but
Cocconi.
Cocconi. We'll figure it out. Slade is his first name.
Yes.
Slade. I'm calling him Slade. I think that's great. I've never heard an Italian with the first name Slade, so we're going to go with that.
That sounds like that'd be like a running back name, wouldn't it?
I think so. I do. But hey, the Guardians have done well. And yes, I understand fans are upset. We've now
Sure.
traded two huge fan favorites.
Yes, absolutely.
We cancel Guards Fest. We make it every 3 years for whatever reason as of right now, and that all may change. But guys, I think what people need to realize is that this team is doing what it can to get better. We're not going to spend the 203 we're not going to have the 200 $300 million payroll. You guys can forget that. I don't know why all the Dolans are cheap. That's your personal opinion. They're working with what they have. We don't have a TV deal right now,
Right.
right?
Well, we
So
do with
there's
Major League Baseball,
right, but
but
it's not
not
a
not
big
a
one.
it's not a Dodgers type of deal. So
Right.
like, and this is what I do talk about. Like, you know, clearly Paul Dolan, who's CEO and has a partial ownership. His father, Larry, is the primary owner.
Hmm.
Who's 92, 93, and I can't remember
Yeah.
the last time we've heard from Larry Dolan. Um, but clearly they're operating it like a business, money in, money out, that kind of thing. The Dodgers TV contract pays them 300 million a year. Last year, the Guardians got 48 million from Bally FanDuel. 300 million pays for the Dodgers payroll, just outright.
Hmm.
They can just say, "Okay, TV money, that's payroll money." 48 million got less than half for the Guardians for their payroll. So like you can yell about that stuff about, owners being cheap and they're billionaires and who cares and all that thing all you want, but the economics of baseball is the way they are. And people talk about salary floors and salary caps, but until baseball really starts to operate as one like the NFL does and that revenue share, there's going to be that discrepancy. And I didn't, that's a longer conversation for another time about like what baseball wants to do about that. But it's going to be hard to convince the Dodgers, who are making a lot more money than the Guardians and bringing that
Yeah,
in,
you could
to share that with them. They're going to say no.
Dodgers, Giants, Yankees, Mets. Those four teams right there have a huge TV deal.
Yeah, and
Cubs.
and they're probably going to say, "I'm not giving you that money. Why would I give you that
Exactly.
money? We're bringing in that money. You're not bringing that money in." So
Right. Why do we want to
it's
share?
a different argument for another time. But
Hmm.
I do want to say, you were talking about like they're trying to get better, and I don't think they're better yet. I think they've shuffled some things around. They've clearly tried to improve the starting pitching. Um, but I still want them to take another leap. And there has been a consistent theme. I've counted it's been said at least 4 times. 3 by Chris Antonetti and 1 by Mike Chernoff. And I will quote from Antonetti from this last press conference after Josh Naylor was traded. I do think we will have opportunities to continue to reinvest in the team if they are the right players at the right position. So
Hmm.
he said something along that line when it came to Jimenez, because I think people were expecting them to go get another second baseman. We talked about that with Lau from Tampa Bay. Um,
Right. We figured it out. It's Lau. It's
yeah, it
not
is Lau.
low. It's Lau. We
Yeah.
we figured it out.
So
I told you that there was one of them that it's different. It's not
yeah,
the same. It's not easy. I
and
needed
I
Sesame Street to
and
tell me
so
which one was different.
so I think he was, saying like, well, we don't want to block players because he was talking about that glutton of middle infielders that they feel like are ready to come up. So he's saying we'll get somebody, we'll reinvest at the right position. Well, where do we feel like they're weakest? And I still feel like that's the outfield. I've been yelling about right field for an eternity. Yeah, right field. So I still think they are going to go get a right fielder. There's options available that I think fit within their
Mhm.
payroll, their restrictions.
We
Um,
know who we want. We know who's at the very top of our list,
yeah.
and that's Anthony Santander. He's looking for a 5-year deal. north of $100 million. So that would be about 20 million a year.
Yeah, and he can wish in one
The
hand, and you
Guardians
know
could
what?
do it, but
Yeah,
exactly, he
and they
wants
can.
that, but we haven't heard anybody offer him anything yet.
And let me say
So,
this. So, I keep track of the payroll numbers, and currently, if the team was to stay the same of where they are about 89 million, and they were at 106 last year. So right there, if they just kept the payroll the same as they did last year, and there's no reason that they shouldn't, that's 17 million available for an outfielder.
hmm,
If they bump up the payroll a smidge, you have a little more available. In 2018, no, 2017, it was 135 million. In 2018, it was 145 million. So they have the capability to go up. They
hmm,
clearly can go up to those marks. Um, and they were in the bottom of the league in hitting against right-handed pitching. Well, a large majority of right-handed of pitching, of starting pitching is right-handed. So you need guys that are going to be able to hit righties, and typically that's a lefty. So I did look at a few guys, and unfortunately, one of them did sign overnight, and that's our old friend
yeah.
Jock Peterson, who hates us.
You know what? I don't. Yeah, I was going to say, Jock Peterson's never playing for the Guardians. It doesn't. The only way he'll ever sign with the Guardians is if he's like 38, 39, and still clinging to baseball life.
But he hit a 923 OPS versus right-handed pitching,
That is
and
nice.
but he did sign for big money. But guys that are left that would
Hmm.
fit this mold, and there'll be varying levels of cost. Anthony Santander, who we mentioned, hit 822 OPS.
He's a switch hitter. He would fit so
Yes,
perfectly in right
just
field.
plug him in right field, and for anybody
You
saying,
still have Will Brennan, and Will Brennan can still do things. Like, we're not saying get rid of Will Brennan. We're just saying Will Brennan can't be the only option in right
yeah,
field, or John Kenzie Noel can't be the only option in right field.
well, and Chris Antonelli mentioned John Kenzie Noel as playing some first base next season. So,
Perfect. He is huge. He should be playing first base.
so, but the what was I going to say? Anyway, yeah, Santander 822 OPS against lefties, switch hitter. Oh, it was going to be, talking about blocking guys. Lane Thomas
Hmm.
is on the final year of his deal. So you have opportunity for Chase DeLauter as well, who is your future in the outfield. Signing
Hmm.
a Santander, I don't think blocks Chase DeLauter. It'd be, Chase is probably going to be more of a second half of the season and future
He's
seasons
got to stay
of a
healthy.
player. Yes,
Got to stay healthy.
that's part of it too. He has not been healthy. Each year he
Hmm.
has had a long injury. He's got
George Valera is another one who we were all high on, and he can't stay healthy either.
and we're not going to see him next year. He had a torn patella and he's going to be out, I think, pretty much the entire season.
Yeah.
But three more guys that they could look at.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Let's hear this list.
Teoscar Hernandez is still available. He has an
he
808
hits
OPS
he hits nukes.
against
I
righties.
he's 32.
Yeah.
That's fair. 32
And
is he's still ready to go.
you have Randall Grichuk, who is 33, and he
Yeah.
had an 801 OPS against righties. So
Okay.
you could
Okay.
platoon him out in
Okay.
in the outfield. And then our other old friend who we've talked about plenty on this show, Jesse Winker, who hit 788 OPS against righties and would be
Now
on
I
the lower
know
end of cost.
we do need a left-handed bat. I've heard that. When you
Yes.
look at our lineup right now, it is very
Mhm.
righty heavy. There's another name I want to throw at you. He
Trade
may not be a big.
or
No, I think
signing.
we can sign him. I believe he's a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. Former Red Sox, former Yankee, Alex Verdugo.
I did look at Verdugo. I didn't include him because of his splits. I believe
Okay.
his righty lefty splits weren't I because I'm assuming, like you said, they need somebody who can hit right-handed pitching, and I don't believe that that's Verdugo. But yes, he is available, or it just wasn't that great. Like he can
No,
hit right-handed pitching,
he's
but
had a couple of down years, so you don't know. Maybe a change of scenery could help. We'll see. I mean, A trade could happen. I don't rule anything out at this point with the Guardians. I don't. We're only in December. January, the calendar will switch to January here very soon. Base Spring training doesn't start until the middle of February, like it always does. There's time for them to work some magic here. I'm not writing them off. I'm excited that Carlos Santana's back. Yes, I'm not expecting Carlos to hit 320 with 40 home runs, but I do know that Carlos Santana walks a lot. When he does hit home runs, he'll hit probably mid 20s. Will the RBIs be there that Josh gave us? Maybe
It
not.
depends where he hits. I mean, if guys are on base
Exactly.
ahead of him,
Lane
if
Thomas will be here for an entire year, hopefully. Can't wait to see him hitting behind Jose Ramirez the entire season.
yeah, like it depends on how they stack the lineup. Like is Manzardo now your two hole guy? Or
Can't wait to watch him play.
is that gonna be Santana because
Hmm?
he walks a lot? You know, do you go Quan Santana, Jose, then
Thomas,
I don't know, go from there.
Noel, yeah, fill in the blank. Juan
Um,
Brito, I mean, whoever's playing second,
but I
right?
do well, and that's why I want them to go get another right fielder. If you can go get a guy that you can plug into that fourth or fifth hole,
We do
Anthony
need a little bit of
Santander is a
pop.
switch hitter who can hit 40
We need a
bombs.
little bit of pop. Santander makes a lot of sense.
And let's say so say he does want a 3, 4, 5 year deal, whatever. Um, they're no strangers to trading guys at the back end of those deals.
Nope.
They did it with Edwin. They did it with Josh Bell after just half of a season. So they can afford the 20 million a year, and then maybe after 2, 3 years, if Santander
It's what
ages,
the trade deadline's for, folks.
you can move
It's what
him.
it's for.
So
Right.
uh,
Why don't you give him a 3-year deal and give him two player options?
yeah, you can get creative. Or apparently deferments are a thing now. Make Blitzer deal
Give
with
him
it in
Bobby Bonilla money.
2028.
I don't care. Pay him until 2085. I don't care.
Yeah, like I
Put a
said,
competitive product on the
make it
field, and that's
make
all I
it
care about.
make it Blitzer's problem when he takes over
Exactly.
the team.
When he takes over the team. Exactly. I'm not I'm sad to see Josh go. I wish
Yeah.
him all the best in Arizona. When the Guardians play Arizona this year, it's in Arizona. So we won't be able to hear like an ovation from Cleveland, the fans saying thank you. Same thing with Jimenez, I believe. When we play Toronto, it's in Toronto. We don't get him at home. So it'll be a bit before we're able to say thank you to these guys. But I'm not hitting there's no panic button. I'm not like, did we get better? Maybe. Did we get worse? We don't know. They got to play the games.
Yeah, and at least with Naylor and Santana, you're gonna have a direct comparison. Like you're gonna
Mhm.
be able to say like, all right, you know, these two guys, how many hits, how many home runs, what, you know, on base, all that. You'll
I
be able
will
to
say
make that
this
direct comparison.
before we go. You had said something in a text to me about Josh Naylor and Bo Naylor
Yeah,
that
so
really hit home for me
I
because I can see a lot of truth in this.
and I can't verify this. This is something that came from somebody who texted me and
Mhm.
said they had heard this, or
It's a valid point,
or maybe it's a feeling, but they had
right?
said that they felt like Bo Naylor had a lot of pressure on him with Josh being there,
Mhm.
and that he may flourish a little bit more, you know, now that he gets to leave the big brother nest.
Yeah, he doesn't have Big Brother looking over his shoulder, telling him to fix his swing, telling him to do this or try this or do. Bo can maybe relax a little bit and maybe have this breakout season that we've been waiting for him to have. Yes, I'm sure he's sad that his brother's gone, but this may open up an opportunity for Bo to be the everyday starting catcher, regardless of how David Fry's elbow is. We know Austin Hedges will get some playing time at catcher, but Bo can take that step that we know that he can do. He can hit 270. Maybe he hits 30 home runs. Maybe he gives us something behind the plate that we haven't seen in a couple years.
And we do know, you know, we saw it with Austin Hedges about leadership in the clubhouse and Jose's feelings towards Austin Hedges being a leader in the clubhouse. I don't know what Josh's dynamic was in there, but we know what Carlos Santana brings in that aspect. And so that could be
Mhm.
another reason why, too, they decided to bring back Carlos is that, maybe Carlos can mentor somebody like John Kenzie Noel and help his chase rate. And, you know,
Yeah.
there are plenty of guys. So, and then clearly with Josh, too, Manzardo was the future at first base. Now, uh, they needed to bring in somebody else. David Fry's going to miss part of the season, so you need somebody to also fill that DH spot. So David Fry's not going to come back until I think May at the earliest, and they were talking about could be even a little bit later. And then he's got
Yep.
to ramp up. He's not going to start off hot right away. I
Right.
wouldn't think. Like it does take those guys time. So it might not be really till July that you can plug David Fry back into the lineup and expect him to be a consistent hitter or the guy that
But
you saw in
but
the
remember,
playoffs.
David Fry is super utility guy. He plays everywhere. So having a player like him is fantastic, even if you brought in a Carlos Santana.
Yeah,
David
I'm
Fry
talking
can play
more of his
everywhere.
offensive production and where
Right.
he fits into the lineup. Because right
Oh yeah.
now, that middle, that top middle, that late middle end, like who's your 5-6 hitter right now? Like that
Yeah.
is kind of your hole that I think still needs to get filled by a Teoscar, an Anthony
Anthony Santander.
Santander, a, you know, somebody along those lines.
Give
And
me Brian Reynolds, and then Brian Shaw's. We'll never be able to wipe the smile off of Brian Shaw's face ever again if Brian Reynolds is in right field. Just saying,
they'll, if I got Lane and Brian Reynolds, oh man.
forget it, forget it. It's
That I
gonna
think
be its
I think that
own.
ship
That'll
has
be its
sailed
own
after the
episode.
extension.
We'll see. I mean, Pittsburgh has been known to do this stuff. They could make him available, and he would probably be in Cleveland's price range. But you never know. That's why lots of time will happen between now and then. Brian, where can they find you and us?
I'm at WXSHAW on Twitter. We are MLB Guardcast on Facebook, Guardcast MLB on Twitter. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify. And hopefully, we have another episode before we talk about pitchers and catchers reporting where we do make that big signing, that Santander signing. And then we're talking about what does this lineup look like?
Mm-hmm.
They're now better. They stacked the rotation with all of these new names, and they added a bat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be exciting, and hopefully that's the conversation. I really do think that there's going to be somebody that they add.
I'm gonna
They
make sure
wouldn't
to tell Santa Claus that I'd like Anthony Santander under the tree.
I
Just
just
saying.
don't think they would keep saying those words about reinvestment if they didn't plan to do it because
They're making calls.
they would know the
They're on the
backlash would be
phone.
really high.
Right. They're on the phone. They're talking to teams. Either a trade is coming or a signing is coming. I'll guarantee it.
All right, Mike, how about yourself? Where can they find you?
Facebook, Twitter, at Mike Vorhies. There's the spelling. You can see it there. If not, you can find me. There's not very many of us on Facebook with that last name. I'm just telling you. Brian, it's a pleasure as always. Merry Christmas to you and yours. A safe and happy new year as well. I look forward to talking Guardians, man. It's coming. The season's right around the corner, but I expect one more episode before pitchers and catchers report, and we're talking spring training and prepping for the 2025 Cleveland Guardians. I have a feeling one's coming.
I hope so. Well, if it does, we will talk to you then. Otherwise, happy holidays, everybody.
Go Guards.